and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 34 of the Outer Voices podcast. As always, we are Keem and Esme.
Yay!
And this week we have a special guest who has decided to sit with us through the entire podcast, which is a first.
Yay!
At least in the new format, it's a first. We have Ari.
With titles, that is Space Baroness Ari, der Schnitzelgeist von unten.
Yeah, all that.
All of that. All of that.
Ari is going to be joining us for the news segment, a very interesting topic segment on Discordianism, which I have no idea about, and I purposefully did not go and look up beforehand.
Well, that's actually very in keeping. You're a very good Discordianism right now, Keem.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go with that. All right. Gonna learn something today. And we should have a very interesting segment. Oh God, not smegment.
No, that's a different thing.
It's not.
If that's what you're into. I like cheese, just not that kind.
Oh wow, this is going to be an episode.
Buckle up, everyone.
Sex segment, which we actually discussed beforehand for once.
I have yet to hear of it, though.
That's right. I forgot to run it by Ari. Whoops. Oh, well.
I'll have fun with it.
I think that you will, actually.
It's all good.
So it's going to be a pretty fun show, which I guess that moves us into our news segment. So the thing I brought for news is small. So should we enter that since it's like a little more lighthearted?
Maybe.
Sure. You do.
Okay, we'll end that because it's more lighthearted. So, Esme, go for it. Start us out.
Oh, I just wanted to bring up the thing that happened very publicly and then was endlessly debated on social media this week, which is that Hugh Hefner died. And all I want to say about it is that, guys, Hugh Hefner was not a good guy. Hugh Hefner was not a good guy. He exploited women for his own financial benefits. He treated women as objects. He non-consensually posted nudes of Marilyn Monroe to found Playboy. He was not a good guy. Feminism would have happened without him. He is not a good guy.
But here is the issue, and this is the issue that I've come up with, and it always comes up when anybody dies or in discussion with historical figures. We tend to see, especially when it comes to history, we see when it comes to everything, before we even go into the history part and historical figures part or people part, we are living in a society where this is either this or that. And the debate has been coming up with Hugh Hefner is some people see him as this, some people see him as that. But I'm gonna set something out there that most people don't realize. There's no such thing as a good person or a bad person. Everyone ever is good and bad. And the debate has come up because Hugh Hefner did a lot of dickish stuff. Treated women as objects. Exploited women. Give unconsented news to Marilyn Manson. Not Marilyn Manson. Shit.
I would probably see that though.
Funnier. Marilyn Monroe. Hugh
I'm
Hefner.
sure there probably are nudes of Marilyn Manson floating around somewhere. If you wanted to look into that, though.
Please. and if the myth is true, there are probably pictures of him sucking his own penis because the myth of him getting a rib removed to suck his own. Yeah,
Dude, that myth has been has been put out and around about so many different celebrities. Honestly, just anybody who was seen as a sexual freak, it's like, yeah, totally, they got their ribs removed so they could suck their own dick.
right. Because that's Anyway, yes, but the debate comes in and still continues to come in because Hugh Hefner also did some pretty great things when it came to other stuff. Like Hugh Hefner gave platforms to civil rights leaders at a time when they weren't given platforms. Martin Luther King's longest print interview was in Playboy.
Yeah, he also did things, though, like give a non-critical platform to NAMBLA.
I'm not finished. This is the issue. This is the issue we're running into, and this is what I'm going to illustrate here as I continue. As I was saying, he gave platforms to civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X when a lot of people weren't. He allowed prominent black figures at a time where they were silenced, like Muhammad Ali, and he even gave Alex Haley his start in writing. He gave a lot of funding to various civil rights pushes at a time where major moguls were not. There's also the cases of Hugh Hefner also put a lot of funding behind getting rid of anti-sodomy laws. He put a lot of money. He actually helped fund the first rape kits used in the United States. He put Charles Beaumont. If you know anything about Charles Beaumont was a writer who famously wrote a story about what if the world was
majority homosexual and heterosexuals were the oppressed minority.
Right.
Yeah, that is.
And that was first printed Playboy. Playboy was the start of so many writers' careers. You also have, do you know who Tula Kasi is? Tula Kasi was a Bond girl in the 1980s. And it was discovered that she was transgendered. Well, I think she was transgendered at the time. Or trans, I'll just go with trans. She was trans, which, of course, in 1981 sparked a lot of stuff. But in response, Playboy offered her a chance to become the first trans model. And here are the issues. Then you have those are things, and then you have all the other things. The given NAMBLA platform and all the violations of consent and objectifying women, and then you have back on the other side you have Playboy is what pushed America, like what really became America's first push mainstream into accepting the sexual nature of America. With all this being said, we're debating over whether this person is a good person or a bad person. The fact of the matter is, the answer is with everyone ever. Both. People do really fucking awful things, and people do really good things. They're both relevant. But when you look at history, when you look at history, you do not go, hey, this person did a whole bunch of good things, so let's forget about all the bad. But you also don't go, this person did a lot of bad things and forget about the good. You take both sets of things and you weigh them against each other. And then you go, okay, I think overall this person did this. So my argument is, of course, not whether Hugh Hefner was a shitty person, because he was a shitty person. My argument is not that he's a good person, because he did some good stuff. My argument is the debate is stupid. The debate is dumb. The debate of whether this person is good or bad is dumb, because that's not how any of this works.
Yeah, my main point though is that the large quantities of the discussion that I've seen about him has been like, oh, Hugh Hefner, who is such a great hero of the sexual liberation movement and the feminist movement and the civil rights movement. The discussion that I've seen since he died overwhelmingly has been that he was a great guy who did so many great things. No, he was a shitty guy who did some pretty good things.
See, I've been getting just the opposite and both. And it happens when pushing Hugh Hefner out of the way for a second. This happens when every person died. Every person dies. Half the population says he was a hero. Other half the population goes, no, pretty shitty.
I wouldn't say it measures a full half all the time.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying, like a percent. And it's always this argument. And as a historian, these debates where people get all like super fired up and whatever misses the entire point. Like, it's like, this is not how you observe history. This is not how you observe historical figures. And this spread out from Hugh. I'm sorry, this is a spiel. Mm-hmm. And Warren asked me about this before. This is a problem I've been having with the viewing of historical things in general, historical figures in general. How we go, this is good, this is bad. That's not how any of that works. You weigh those things and you go, overall, this blah, 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 or this blah, blah, blah. Like, this is how you observe history. It's you don't yell at each other that because of things that you have not fully thought about. Because all the people going, he was a hero, haven't thought of the horrible fucking shit he's done. And the people who's going, he's real shitty, probably haven't thought of the positive things.
Nah, I think a lot of the people who are saying that he's a shitty person think that those things could have been accomplished without the shitty shit that he did.
But it doesn't. Here's the thing. As fucked up it is to say, when in regards to history, you can't go, well, this could have happened the other way. It happened the way it happened. The good and the bad happens the way it happens. So we can't say, well, we can make this thing, we can make this thing of, well, it could have happened differently, or it could have been done differently. Of course it could have.
That's the point, though, is if it could have happened differently, he's a shitty person because he didn't do it differently. Like, he advanced the things that he advanced on the backs of women that he exploited, and that makes him shitty. But
it doesn't take those advancements away. And that's the problem people keep running into. Yes, he was shitty, but also there were advancements. You can't take those away. And this absolutism is what the problem is. That's the thing. Absolutely what the problem is. The people, I know in regards to black people, and the things he's like, and the civil rights stuff. Black people know about that stuff. And when it comes to when as a black person going, hey, this guy helped Martin Luther King or helped blah, 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 that's what we think about. Just like when it comes to feminists, and especially white feminists. You have the opposite reaction. But the problem is the absolutism, like what we talk about, intersectionality. Yeah. We think, I'm getting there. We think specifically for our groups in absolutist views, not taking an entire picture into account and then judging it, either good or bad. And then we attack other people for thinking the way they do about certain things, when neither side, when no one has taken anything, like taken a more complete picture into account. Basically, people don't think enough.
I mean, that's universally true.
Yeah, that's true. Like, people don't think enough, and then they make absolute declarations without thinking. And then they attack each other because they haven't thought things through. And this is, and for I know somebody's going to say, but Keem, isn't this like with like when like there are Nazis and white supremacists and are you saying we should? No. Because the fact of the matter is their view, literally their view on things is genocide. Like, there's, my thing is you take everybody's view and you weigh the good and the bad. When you have an argument like that that's all bad, there's nothing good to work on.
But Rakeem, don't you know the white race is so fragile and needy that we literally have to get rid of all other kinds of people in order to survive?
Yes, white genocide, right. My God.
Yes. In any case, my point, though, that got on a real long tangent, but let's move on because we've got some stuff to do. But my point, the real point that I was trying to make was that he's not the hero that people have been saying that he is.
Exactly.
He did some stuff, okay, fine, but also he did a whole bunch of really shitty stuff to achieve the good things that he did.
And my point, to add on to her point, was he wasn't the hero that everybody says, but he's also like not complete villain, because that's not how people work. People are shitty, people are good, and people are shitty together.
Yes. Okay. So.
Okay.
Next news topic.
So that went on a thing.
I knew that it would, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up. I just wanted to argue with you in public.
Right.
Like this is our version of like screaming at each other in a bar. Is yelling at each other on a podcast. Anyway.
And people have gotten that. People who have listened to the podcast was just like, yeah, this is what you two do, huh? I was like, yep, This is it. Anyway, going into my new topic, which is nowhere near as
Don't forget that Ari has one too.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Wait, does Ari want to go next?
I'm ambivalent.
Actually, you go since you're our guest.
All right, then. So, as you likely recognized from my titles, Space Baroness Ari der Schnitzelgeist von Unten, I am in fact Space German. And as you also may know, there have recently been public elections in Germany, and
Germany.
Yes, Earth Germany. I do need to specify. In Earth Germany, there have recently been elections, and I am very disappointed. Because you see, the AfD, which is the Alternative für Deutschland Partei in Germany, basically alt-right Germany. Pretty much literally, they have the same stances as the alt-right. Their name is playing on the same idea. They won a full 94 seats, which is just over a full eighth of the parliament. When before this party had existed since 2013, and they had never claimed a single seat. So
they're bringing Nazis back to Germany.
Yeah. They're making Germany a Nazi shithole again.
We've done this, people. We've already done this.
Yes.
I thought we fixed that problem.
Yeah, like
Turns
years
out.
and years of these people moving away from nationalism. And here I am looking down from my kingdom in space, Bavaria, at this horrible mistake they made.
And I hate to make this about the U.S., but you gotta think with all the international coverage of what's happening here that's had to have an impact on the outcome of that election.
I mean, yeah, we're like the superpower that the rest of the world watches in fear. So obviously everybody knows that fascism is on the rise here, and any fascists that have seen that are like, yeah, my side's winning.
Right. God, we're America's herpes.
Yeah.
No, I take it back.
Yeah,
We're
do
not-
take it back. Herpes ain't no big deal.
Well, okay. America is a person with syphilis. It's creeping up on us. We're starting to get syphilitic insanity, but we're spreading it to other countries.
Alright, just be careful not to get too ableist with that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about old school Dark Ages syphilis.
Yeah, but we also don't want to associate the likely very good people who have gone mad with, Nazi shitbags.
Right. That's true. It's hard making an analogy, that isn't
That
Fucked
isn't
up.
prejudiced against someone somewhere at some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just part of our speech.
Hey, what can you do?
That's true. I mean, you can do better.
I mean, but
Or at least
yeah,
you
but
can
then
try. Invent words. Radnarf. Nord.
Yeah, but I'm Shakespeare. I'm shitty at that.
No, you're not.
Yeah, but no one understands what I'm saying. I need definitions.
Okay, define them as you use them. Provide a glossary of terms for people to peruse at the end of the podcast.
I actually really like this idea.
Yeah,
and
I'm open to
eventually-
possible definitions for Radnarf.
Hear that?
Okay.
If you are listening to this podcast, come to our Facebook page and give us your definition of Radnarf.
Well, I will change my my metaphor.
Okay.
America is a quant wobbler. Getting this quant wobbler juice all over other countries.
Goodness, that damn quant wobbler juice.
Ugh. Ugh. I'm disgusted by this metaphor. I think that's the point, though.
That actually made it worse.
Yeah, see how effective nonsense is? We'll be talking more about this once it's time for me to get interviewed.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Actually, you know what? Nonsense actually goes well into my news story.
Yay!
Alright then. We're gonna be segueing into it well and then out of it well.
Right, and actually, and my news story actually probably go well into the topic segment if I'm right. So this is a fun one. The
Yay.
rapper, who I used to enjoy somewhat, the rapper B.O.B. who has now gained fame as a flat Earth person,
That's right. I forgot that.
and who last year got into a Twitter beef and put out a diss record against Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh god, I remember this.
I mean, how dumb are you? Like, don't beef against Neil deGrasse Tyson. Seriously, just don't.
But like, has Neil deGrasse Tyson been to the South Pole?
Probably.
Has he though?
Probably.
Then he knows the truth.
It's all a lie. Anyway, so that was last year. This year he decided to up his game and recently set up a GoFundMe campaign.
Oh dear.
His GoFundMe campaign entitled "Show Bob the Curve." He's trying to prove that the curvature of the Earth does not exist.
Of course.
He has asked for $200,000 to launch multiple satellites into space in order to observe and to disprove, because that's what scientists automatically do. They create a thing that they say is real, and then they immediately go and just immediately prove that, because that's how science works.
Totally. Yes.
But he's going to try to disprove what centuries of science and technology have already confirmed.
Yep, that holds up.
He's trying to prove that, of course, the Earth is flat. In his idea, it's a disk.
Yeah, a disc with Antarctica as a ring around the edge of it and the North Pole at its center.
I don't understand.
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense or have any actual scientific backing, but, like, it almost could make sense if they had, like, evidence, or if I were suitably messed up at the time of hearing it.
Yeah, you had to, yeah. Like, my question is, this person, B.O.B., has traveled around the globe. And around the globe. He has literally circumnavigated the Earth in an airplane.
Yes, but remember, they think that the edge is not somewhere between our continents, but off past Antarctica to what we would call the South.
I don't. So what's on the other side of this disc?
I don't know. I haven't seen that shit.
Bizarro Land.
This is a question. Flat Earthers, I invite you to come on. If there are any flat earthers out there listening to this podcast, which I'm sure there are not.
That's unlikely, yes.
Yes. But if there are, I invite you to come on the show and explain to me what is on the other side of the disc. Like,
but you guys, what if what's on the other side of the disc is the upside down, like from Stranger Things? Season 2 coming out soon, you guys. Please sponsor us, Stranger Things.
Yes.
You want to know my dirty secret? I've never seen Stranger Things.
I mean,
I haven't.
Like, you haven't seen much. So
that's right. I just watched Parks and Rec over and over and over and over.
It's a beautiful thing.
And over and over and over.
Also, we can't get any sponsorship from Parks and Recs because the show is already over. So,
I mean, I don't know.
A problem.
Invent a time machine or something.
That's a problem. Also, I feel like at this point, like I could just apply independently for sponsorship from Amy Poehler and Adam Scott. Like, Amy Poehler, give me money to watch your show over and over again. No, I don't think that's how that works. But also, I love you, and also, you're amazing.
You could start streaming it on YouTube. Like, you just watching the show repeatedly. And then you could, like, send out analyses. A bunch of people would buy the box sets just to, like, verify your interpretations of things.
That's what I'm...
And YouTube's copyright, take it down immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you just show Esme reacting to it instead of showing the show itself. Maybe try to like cut out the audio too. Either that or just have Esme in headphones.
That would totally work. And actually, I really kind of want to do this. Like,
I do not support this. I do not support this.
no, you don't support me live posting my like real time commentary on every episode of Parks and Rec ever.
I am not feeding into this obsession.
You refuse to feed into this obsession, and that's okay. I don't care. I love you anyway.
I'll be enabler enough for both of us.
It's like it's like giving a mountain of cocaine to a crack addict.
Except that this has no discernible negative health effects.
But it has not yet. I believe if somebody removed you from Parks and Rec for like a few months, you start to lose it.
I don't know. I did get real anxious the last couple of days. Like there were like 3 days this week where I couldn't watch Parks and Rec in the evening, and I got real weird. Although part of that was because I had not run in almost a week. Actually, no, like in a full week.
Okay, so maybe if we ran an experiment where you replaced watching Parks and Rec with running for the week.
No, both. I need both.
It was just a thought. I
don't like that thought. That's a bad thought.
Okay.
You should have different thoughts.
Bad thought.
Sorry. Off of Parks and Rec for a second. I've had to. I can't talk. Fuck.
Yeah, that's usually what you do.
Thinking about this flat Earth thing. All right.
Oh, you're getting back on topic? What?
Yeah, let's get back on topic. Let's talk about the totally true theories of flat earthers.
Right. It's completely true. B.O.B. and Tila Tequila said so.
I mean,
oh dear God!
Did you guys watch Shot of Love? Because she's a visionary. Okay. A Shot at Love. Sorry, both of them, in fact.
And also, for some reason, a Asian neo-Nazi, which.
Oh Jesus!
I mean, like, there's actually surprisingly many. Mongolia has an entire like subculture of neo-Nazis. It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah, we should have stars and rainbows all over this shit.
We're all learning. But okay, my question about the flat Earth stuff, because I'm inquisitive today.
Today?
I will not go onto one of their sites and try to. I will not go do that because I feel like that would somehow affect my IQ.
I mean, IQ's bullshit anyway, so
that is true.
You do you.
Either way, I'm trying to get that Mensa. Mensa sponsorship.
Mensa's kind of shit, also. So, still you do you. From what I understand, they at least used to advocate eugenics. I could be totally wrong on that, though. So, actually look that up instead of taking my word for it.
This is America. Everything at one point advocated eugenics.
Yeah, we were actually totally on board the Hitler train right up until fucking Pearl Harbor. So
yeah. But so flat. I wonder, do they believe that every other planet is flat too?
I assume every other planet is some kind of weird projection hoax by NASA.
Yeah, that seems right.
But the moon.
Also.
No, the moon is flat too. That's why you only ever see one side of it.
But why? How can we see the moon the way it is?
NASA only puts a spotlight on a part of it at a time.
But I can see the moon during the day too.
Yeah. They want to trick you.
And if I look up at the moon, by the way, that's going from going across the sky, was it east to west or west to east, whatever?
Yeah, I always forget too. But then I also forget my rights and my lefts.
I have to do the hands.
I don't understand how it moves but stays the same if it's flat.
But Because
there's only one side.
I'm so confused. This doesn't. Of course, it doesn't make sense. But like their explanation, like the
we
explanation.
live in 2D space, Keen. Accept it.
We're fucking cartoons. That's all it can be. We're fucking cartoons. Tomorrow the moon is gonna come out. It's gonna have eyes on it, and the sun's gonna come out, and it's gonna sing "Smile, darn you, smile."
No, actually, it's going to be a shining sun, like in that one episode of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that holds up.
I can't deal with this. Can't deal with this.
Just go mad with us.
I feel like you're not going to enjoy the rest of this episode.
No, I'm purposefully letting my brain just wander into insanity because it feels like it's the right thing to do on this episode.
That's the spirit.
I feel yes. 'Tis the season.
Well, a season.
So,
It's always the season for insanity.
How about I look up the date in the Discordian calendar? Because we have our own calendar, don't you know? Yeah.
Neat.
hold on.
Is this our transition into our topic segment?
It's time to transition.
Okay.
Yes. So as Ari with all the titles gets the Discordian information ready for us, we are going to have a brief musical interlude from Midtown Queer.
Yay!
And now, dear listeners, the weather.
Sound of laughter illuminates the mind. It takes me back to yesterday, back to better time. Of course it makes me think of you and how things used to be. Oh, those days are over now, another eternity. I'll twist and turn on this ancient bed. Well, I'll be so till you return. Oh, the vision fills my head. While the question haunting me, oh, with all the love we had. Like a song that starts to go, finish off so bad. Light on the neon line, it takes us out my road. These people tell what the friends on sale. I'm drowning in the glow. This lady life, not a thing to do. Well, I'm awake and think of you. I wonder how things might have been. It only tried. Ooh, we'd only try again. The sound of sadness goes on radio. radio. Another song, long gone wrong in another tale of woe. And that's all I listen to. Could someone please explain why the bells lost song was out of real pain? Later on in the neon light, the police outside my room. This cheap hotel on a friends on sale, you know, down in the blue. It's late now, not a thing to do. And I awake and think of you. I wonder how things might have been if we had only tried again. Oh, if we had only tried again. Oh, if we had only tried. If we had only, if we had only, if we had only tried. If we had only, if we had only, if we had only tried. If we had only, if we had only, if we had only tried. If we had only, if we had only, if we had only tried.
Welcome back to our topic segment for today. As we have said earlier from the news segment, we bring to you Ari with a talk on Discordianism, which of course I have no idea no idea what this is about. So it's going to be a very interesting interview.
All right.
Take it away.
All right then. So we. Where do I want?
The beginning.
Let's start at the very beginning. Anyway, so when it comes to Discordianism, first, I suppose I should give some background as to what exactly it is. All of this hails from the 60s and 70s, the days of acid being new and everyone being thoroughly enlightened by their experiences with it. And ultimately, a bunch of people at some point got together and decided that they needed some kind of ideological framework which placed at its center chaos and discord rather than the order that everyone seems to try to impose on the universe otherwise. In this particular venture, they decided that one of the best personifications of the concepts they wished to portray was Eris, the Greek goddess of discord. Mm-hmm. In order to give a proper overview of what Discordianism is, I'm going to tell you 3 stories, one of which I've thoroughly boiled down into just a couple sentences because, I don't know, I'm less interested in it as I am in the other 2.
I mean, which is why you boil down stories, really.
Yeah. So anyway, the first one, the one I'm boiling down, is the creation myth of Discordianism, which is basically that the void existed and nothing else, and it gave birth to Eris and Aneris, the embodiments of disorder and order, respectively. Eris was born pregnant, Aneris was born infertile, and Aneris was very jealous. Eris was very happy because she gave birth to all of the universe. If I
gave birth to the entire universe, I would not be happy. But that's just me.
Well, Eris is kind of a crazy chick. That being said, over time, there was a lot of sibling rivalry, blah, blah, Eris and Aneris.
Blah, blah.
Eris would create some plaything for herself, and Anaris would take it and destroy it by forcing it to be as ordered as possible.
That sucks.
Yeah. Eventually, Eris asked for their father, the Void, to find some kind of middle ground for them and solve these disputes. And so he birthed a son, Spirit. And that is where all of us come from, by the way.
Yay, space dad.
Yep, Void Space Dad. But yeah, he birthed the spirit and said that Eris could play with it to her heart's content, and then when finally she was done with it, it would return to the void rather than giving Anaris the opportunity to destroy it.
That doesn't seem fair.
As such, well, I mean, like, Anaris had been kind of terrible throughout a lot of this story that I've cut out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This was all about destroying the things. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
the whole deal. So, the deal is, we come into Eris's domain, we live a little while, and then we die, and it's just like before we were born. And that's life, you guys.
That sounds right.
Yeah. The second story, one which primarily originates from the ancient Greeks, but has a brief interjection that I can assure you is purely Discordian, is that of the Great Snub.
Great what?
The Great Snub is what it is called amongst Discordian circles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The idea is that there was a great wedding going on Mount Olympus, and everyone was invited except Zeus, recognizing that Eris, being the goddess of discord and at the time they thought strife, she was not invited because she had a tendency to make a huge mess of things.
What? No.
Yeah. So, not unlike Maleficent from the Sleeping Beauty tale that came eons after her, Eris decided that she would have her revenge on this party. So she crafted a beautiful golden apple on which were inscribed the words Te Callisti, meaning to the prettiest one. And she tossed it into the congregation at the reception of this wedding. 3 goddesses had their eyes caught by the beauty of this apple, namely Athena, goddess of wisdom and war.
Who really should know better.
You would think. Hera, goddess of fertility and wealth, and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. So what happened is they saw the inscription, recognized, okay, so clearly whichever of the 3 of us is the prettiest should have this apple.
Obviously.
Yes. So they asked around with all the gods, and the gods being just wise enough to recognize that these were 3 very powerful women who, in order to answer in the affirmative for one of them, they would have to rebuke the other 2 and potentially incur their wrath. So none of them would give them any answer. Thus, they set their sights on the realm of man. Have you been trying to interject, Keen?
No, I know the story, actually.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
So they set their sights on the realm of man. Oh, by the way, the Discordian interlude, after throwing the golden apple into the congregation, Eris went off somewhere and consoled herself, easing her feelings of betrayal by eating hot dog buns. Anyway, and now continuing,
That's even
we get to the point where these 3 amazing, powerful, beautiful goddesses approach
I kind of want a hot dog bun.
They are forbidden, except on Fridays, unless you don't really care for that shit. Honestly, if you're a Discordian, you can go however you want on the hot dog bun deal.
I mean, I usually do.
I personally have found that at least this week, it was fun not having hot dog buns during the week and then having a nice hot dog on Friday. Anyway, So these gods looked into the realm of men and found Paris, a young man who had made his life on cavorting with nymphs and generally being a hedonistic lech,
Yeah, as one does.
as one does.
Prince of Troy.
What?
Prince of
Paris. He was Prince of Troy. This is eventually
Same.
important. Anyway,
Yes, that Paris.
yes, that Paris. He'll
You know
that knows her new BFF, and then her other new BFF, and then a bunch of nymphs, and she was a guy, and she was approached by a bunch of goddesses. And continuing with the story, so they told him that he needed to decide which of them was the prettiest, because this was a burning question, and they needed this apple. And they gave him 3 days. On the night of the first day, Athena, being clever and crafty and not terribly original considering, decided to come to him and bribe him. She promised him glory in battle and wisdom beyond his years. And he was like, that sounds pretty great. But then the second night came along, and Hera offered him, as a bribe, wealth beyond measure. And he was like, that's also pretty great. But then, on the third night, just before he was going to have to judge on the following morning, Aphrodite came to him and promised him the love of the most beautiful creature in the realm of man. And
he was like, that's
he was like, yeah, that's what I'm all about. So totally
And
it's
the power of
Aphrodite.
boners triumphed.
What?
I said the power of boners triumphed over all.
I mean, yeah, this is Paris we're talking about. Hedonistic lech, I already mentioned this. So, yeah, Paris chose Aphrodite. Aphrodite orchestrated things so that Helen, wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, should become his bride, or Paris's bride. So they ran off to Troy, and thus began, many of those of you familiar with mythology will recognize, the Trojan War, which the Greeks commonly thought of as the first war among man. Thus, in spite of my great reverence for her, can we see that Eris is not really the best of people?
Well, she's not.
No, she's ultimately a concept, or rather a symbol personifying a concept that I particularly enjoy.
Questions.
Yes. Well, I mean, I do have yet a third story telling us about Eris's opinion of us, what we do, and how the world goes. There was once, after the founding of Discordianism, but before the writing of the Principia Discordia, because this story does in fact appear in the Principia Discordia, which we will be linking you to.
Yay. Links for everyone.
Yes, those green outfits. Anyway, so an avid follower of Eris was sitting alone, listening to his radio, and praying fervently to the goddess of discord, which, by the way, as an aside, we Discordians don't commonly advocate prayer. We see it as kind of a monkey's paw situation. I mean, like, what if there was a village that was experiencing a drought and everyone fervently prayed for rain, and then all of a sudden, like, it was just monsoon season for, like, 5 years?
Yeah,
Like,
no shit, right?
Yeah.
So
anyway, yeah, we don't typically pray, but this guy was doing so. He was very distraught. And so his radio programming was interrupted by a message from the goddess Eris herself. She said, "My child, you sound so distraught. What is it that you want?" And he said, "Eris, the realm of man is plagued with wars and rampant poverty. People starve and suffer on a daily basis." And Eris said, "But what's the matter with this if it's what humanity wants?" And the man said, but no one wants this. This isn't what we want. This isn't right. And Eris said, then stop. And that was the end of communications.
Helpful.
Yeah. So, you guys, stop.
Seriously, guys, stop.
Seriously. Fucking stop.
Stop.
I mean, I feel like what I want is to stop some of the people who haven't stopped. So, like, stop. Or I might force you to.
Stop.
Yeah, stop.
I like that story. That's a good story.
So, questions.
Yeah, questions.
So, now that the interview is actually going on, I did decide to look up something.
Well, I've honestly only really been, like, diving into reading up on Discordianism this past week. It's kind of just been a thing I've felt since before then.
So the more that we talk about it and the more I experience it, the more I realize that I've actually been pretty, like, I've been a Discordian for a long time.
Yeah, this is fucking life.
I really enjoy.
One of my favorite interpretations of Discordianism I've seen so far, oddly enough, this was discovered in a Reddit thread where a man was describing his most intense drug trip ever. And he just, as an aside, was like, I'm Discordian, and these are the things I believe. His interpretation, in fact, was that he should study and devote himself to practicing just whatever spiritual practice he felt like, whenever, and just as soon as he felt like he was starting to accept their doctrines as true, he would move on to another one, so that he wouldn't, like,
Oh my
change
God.
his, like,
I've totally
core
done
self.
that.
Yeah. So
Shit.
you're potentially a perfect Discordian.
No, also I have a deep-seated love for like sowing chaos wherever I go and confusing the fuck out of people.
Okay, so here we are. Clearly, this is exactly the right spirituality for at least 2/3 of this group. I'm not
Yes.
sure how Keem feels yet.
I'm not sure Keem is sure how Keem feels, which I feel like is sort of the
right
point.
It's a big part of the point.
I mean, I definitely sow chaos everywhere I go.
Yes,
But
this feels very right.
I want to.
Well,
I
then
want
I'm
to.
forming a cabal,
See, yes.
which every Discordian is allowed to do at their will. So I suppose now I'm forming a cabal consisting of myself, my roommate, and now Esme.
Yay!
And there you have it, folks. For the first time on our show, there has been a cabal formed, like before your eyes or before your ears.
Ari
in
and
this
I
case,
just high-fived. It's a thing.
I have to. Okay, so I would like to ask. So this show is, of course, very social justice and activism oriented, which brings me to Operation Mindfuck.
Yeah, man. Fucking,
Yay!
yeah. Fucking,
Could you-
there was a word for it that I had into. I forget the word.
Please talk to us about Operation Mindfuck.
Okay, yeah, the whole point is just to make everyone confused and maybe even a little uncomfortable so that they think about things.
Oh my God, that's how I live my life every single day. I love it.
All right, so among their operations was passing out cards, reading that every person, rather, the person reading this card is in fact a pope of Discordianism. In fact, everyone who is listening right now and everyone who is presently has appeared on this podcast and everyone who's alive, honestly, is a pope of Discordianism. So treat them right, and yeah. Hail Eris, hail Discordianism, take Callisti. Or hail Discordia, take Callisti.
Yay.
What the hell?
Also, among their operations was a campaign against catnip in order to underscore the absurdity of campaigning against marijuana, claiming that catnip was dangerous because kids were smoking it when they couldn't get marijuana. Like, just let your kids have the marijuana. The catnip's way worse.
That seems right.
Wow. Just wow.
Which, by the way, I do not advocate the use of hallucinogens in public.
I mean, that's just a bad life choice, right?
But really, I mean, reality is all about perception. So if you're on hallucinogens, what is public?
I don't advocate the use of hallucinogens in public. I don't advocate in public the use of hallucinogens.
I'm sorry.
I mean, according to a character in a book I'm reading that it turns out is basically like Atlas Shrugged for Discordians, only frankly it's kind of shitty in their portrayal of like queer people, but that's probably because it was written in the 60s or 70s. But the deal is, one of the characters is constantly advocating for the introduction of acid in our water supply and an orgy on every street corner.
I'm in favor of one of those things. No, though, because consent is a thing.
I mean, yeah, but you can have an orgy on a street corner and it be consensual.
Well, no, but it's not consensual for the people who are exposed. You have to be
that is true.
Obtain consent for like people to view sexual content. Like that's a thing too.
That is truth in a lowercase t sense, and I can talk about truth in an uppercase t sense if we want to, or at least like how we contextualize that, if that's of interest.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Okay then. Well, a pseudo like it's somewhere between being an epistemological point and a metaphysical point of view, but the Discordian perspective tends to be that everyone views the world through what we call a grid, which is built up of their personal perceptions, knowledge, and experiences. And through every individual grid, certain things will appear ordered, and certain things will appear disordered. If you ask one person, one thing is a perfectly ordered thing that seems perfectly in line with natural laws. You ask another one, and it's a fucking miracle that he can't explain for shit. And the idea is that the truth is in no kind of grid and is ultimately something that we can't really perceive, but can maybe get close to if we can collect enough grids to look at things through. Which is potentially where this whole idea of needing to adopt different spiritual stances and learn that perspective comes from.
Discordianism very much reminds me of, and it's not the same, but it reminds me very much of, what's his name? Slipping my mind. Aleister Crowley.
Mm.
And
but he is very, very much about order, though.
I know, but
he's exceptionally focused on order and hierarchy.
I was just about to say that. It reminds me of that, but flipped.
I mean, like, even the disciples of Greyface served the will of Discordia.
What?
Another Discordian myth is that of Greyface, who was a historical person who was touched by the will of Anaris, and through his curse do many men seek to establish hierarchical structures and strictly ordered societies.
Damn it.
I'm gaining so many insights about my own life right now.
Yeah, that's
This
literally
is
what this
brilliant.
is
I love this.
about. So
Holy
you
shit.
might be of the mindset that doesn't even need acid to understand Discordianism.
Holy shit, this is amazing.
Oh, wait, again, I don't advocate in public the use of acid. Also, like, you guys, modern acid is shit. It's typically MDMA and, like, meth and all kinds of junky substances all grouped together instead of actually being real LSD. So, like, be careful. And also, I don't advocate its use in public.
We are going to have to do quite a few disclaimers with this episode,
Yeah, probably.
which more than likely we're not going to do. So get ready.
Oh, okay, you guys. Not as many content warnings as one might expect. Of course, it's probably a little late for most of them.
I feel like I've fallen headfirst into a tornado of what the fuck?
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Sort of.
Yep.
I mean, like,
Yep.
yeah, you're feeling the right way. You're grooving on what I'm grokking. Or grokking on what I'm
Something.
digging something. I don't know all the 60s
there's
lingo.
A phrase. There's a phrase for this, I'm sure.
Yeah. You're like, you're dancing to the beat I'm putting down. Something
Getting
like
swift.
that. Yeah, you're getting swifty. Taking off your pants and your panties.
Shit on the floor.
Time to get swifty in here.
Oh dear.
Yeah, this is more Rick and Morty that you maybe haven't been exposed to
Yes,
yet,
this
Esme.
is-
You have been present for all of the Rick and Morty I've been exposed to.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if that episode was in season 1 or not.
It was not. Well, now I've seen half of season 2 too. Or
We
some-
only watched all of
we
season
watched.
1.
We finished season 1 and then we stopped. Okay.
If Esme had gotten like halfway through season 2, then that
No,
episode should
I have
come
not.
up.
I've only seen season 1.
Yeah. We stopped at the end of season 1. We've been watching half a season per sitting, and there have been 2 sittings.
There should be another sitting.
I feel like
Oh my god! Can we have a hot dog and Rick and Morty date next Friday?
I don't presently have any plans that I can think of, so maybe.
Shit, yes.
Gotcha.
I feel like Rick and Morty would go right along with Discordianism.
Possibly. I mean, a bit of a criticism I have that I could level against the general, like, vibe of Rick and Morty, which I could also level at certain, like, interpretations of Discordianism, is that it seems to almost edge on being, or it seems to almost be adjacent to this idea that because I don't have a clear stance, I'm morally superior to those who have claimed a clear stance,
Uh-huh.
which is what I would like to call radical centrism, and what also many other people on the internet have called radical centrism, so I don't claim that.
And also, a lot of people not on the internet have claimed radical centrism.
Well, yeah, true. I would like it would almost seem that Rick and Morty is a bit of a criticism on that.
I mean, it really depends on how you watch it. Honestly, Dan Harmon is maybe a decent person. I'm not really sure. The other writer, I forget his name. Do you know his name, King?
It's slipping my mind right now.
Actually, there are a bunch of writers, but like, there's 2 main people.
Dan Harmon and keep going. I'll think of it.
Okay, well, the point is that other person is kind of a shitbag who is really just edgy for the sake of being edgy.
Yeah, he's the he created. Okay, I remember seeing some of his stuff like a long time ago. House of Cosby's.
I don't think I saw that. Yeah, Justin Roiland.
Yeah. And so if anybody was on the internet back in the day, one of the early like viral cartoons, like webtoons, I guess at the time, was a show called House of Cosby's, where this guy, and honestly, with everything that has come out about Bill Cosby, Uh, probably it puts the show in a completely different light. But it was a show about this guy who was like obsessed with Bill Cosby, so he decided to clone him.
Oh, Jesus.
That's interesting.
And it's like all these different like versions of Bill Cosby. Like there was regular Bill Cosby, and then there was like little person Bill Cosby, and like Terminator Bill Cosby, and all these different versions of Bill Cosby, and they all live in this house together, and they would like get into hijinks. It was weird as fuck, but it got of course taken down. Like it was immediately, but not immediately. It got a few episodes in before Bill Cosby struck that shit down. Yeah. But like going back, if you ever get a chance, if it's still out there, I mean, it's the internet, it probably is, but go look up House of Cosby's.
I might do that, but also Justin Roiland. I don't really want to support him too much.
Right.
Evidently, his like earlier versions of Rick and Morty that he had made webtoons of before, like he paired off with Dan Harmon to actually make the series, was basically of a scientist that was vaguely Rick, and his assistant who was vaguely Morty, and there were tons of gags where content warning, possibly with like some pedophilic stuff. There ended up a lot of gags where, like, the Morty person was licking the Rick person's testicles. Just because, I don't know.
Well, the original concept for it was, it was a reference to the relationship, the weird relationship of Doc and Marty in Back to the Future, and basically Roiland went, okay, so
let's take everything weird about this and ramp it up to like fucking 27 on a 10-point scale.
Like just make it like completely over the top, and this weirdly old man young boy relationship that is not exactly normal.
I mean, I appreciate him going ad absurdum on things, because absurdity is amazing under my new philosophy. But, well, it's new to me. It's not actually a new philosophy. Just like, and it's not mine. I don't claim it. But, like, at the same time, dude, figure out what your absurdity's for. So absurdity for no purpose is also okay, but, like, if your purpose is to be needlessly, like, antagonistic and or needlessly, like, gross, then, I don't know, at least think about it.
I think Roiland drew a lot of his like work concepts, like the way he does comedy. I think he drew it a lot out of trying to imitate what South Park used to be.
I mean, but they didn't go quite that far. They went pretty far, but not that far.
He tried to mimic it at first, and then like, okay, well, since they did this, let me pop it up a notch.
Right.
And that didn't work too well. I'm glad Dan Harmon is there to kind of rein it in, because Harmon, you know, his work on Community was great, and Community was kind of chaos too.
Yeah, Community's a really good series. Anybody who hasn't watched it, like, go get on Hulu and watch that shit or something.
Community's great. Yeah, if you haven't seen Community yet, go do it. But Community was kind of controlled chaos. I mean, Rick and Morty Prophet and Harmon Quest is good, but Rick and Morty is I can't think of the word. Shit. Rick and Morty is good because Harmon is there to rein in the absurdity that comes with Roiland.
I mean, not even like absurdity, but just like edgelord bullshit.
Right.
Like, if it were just absurdity, it would already be perfect. But it's purposefully being edgy and, like, challenging what people are comfortable with, not in a way that makes them think, but just in a way that, like, makes them recoil.
Right. Anyway, that was a aside for Rick and Morty.
Super long aside.
Sorry.
Sorry. Look, we're Rick and Morty fans, and we have issues with it.
I mean, like, yeah, part of loving media is criticizing it on its shortcomings.
Right. Haha, Cummings.
Ejaculate.
Ari, is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't know. What questions do you have? Because I could flesh out some shit, potentially. But, like, it depends on what kind of perspective we're wanting to tackle it with.
Okay, could you explain the three, like, I saw something about the three concepts or three, like...
Oh, the fallacies?
Well, yeah, it essentially would be that. There would be... I think you're talking about the aoristic principle, the anaristic principle, and the recognition that both the aoristic and anaristic principles are actually fallacies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? That was an affirmative?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, the aoristic principle refers to the propensity of some people to assume that the world is wholly chaotic or wholly disordered. And then the anaristic principle refers to the propensity of some to assume that the world is wholly ordered or wholly non-chaotic, I guess. Wholly harmonious, I suppose you could say. And then, again, the third concept is that ultimately it depends on the grid you're looking through, and both of them are wrong. Capital T truth is not really approachable by standard human means.
I get that. I think I got that.
Yep. And I've brought up drugs a lot, though I don't in public advocate them. But largely because it would appear that Discordianism is a very pro-drug philosophy. That being said, you absolutely don't have to be a druggie to love Discordianism, and you also don't have to love Discordianism to be a druggie. It's really just whatever you want to do. That's the whole deal. Like Eris said, what does it matter if it's what humanity wants?
It's like watching Labyrinth. Like, you don't have to be on drugs to watch Labyrinth and enjoy it.
In fact, I don't think I've ever watched Labyrinth on drugs. I mean, Bowie's Bulge just kind of does it for me. I don't know why.
Dude.
I can't even imagine.
It reminds you of the Babe.
What babe?
The Babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Hoodoo?
You do.
Do what?
Thank you so much.
So I have seen Labyrinth all the way through twice in my life.
I mean, that's okay. I'm just a little bit
last
of a
one
Jim
was-
Henson
The
fanatic.
last one was very recently, though,
Okay, cool.
like in May.
Okay.
I've seen Labyrinth.
I always suggest amongst my friends, and it hasn't really happened yet, that we should have a fucking Jim Henson marathon where we watch Dark Crystal and
And Farscape.
Farscape's good.
I love
I've watched most of
Farscape.
Farscape.
I love Farscape.
Zan is my favorite.
Yes!
I'm not gonna spoiler on Zan. Zan is my favorite. But anyway, where was I going? Where we watch The Dark Crystal, I guess also some Farscape, and Labyrinth, and Mirror Mask. Mirror Mask was my favorite film growing up, and not that many people have heard of it. It's like
heard
an
of it,
art
but never
film
seen it.
that Jim Henson did when he was in college. At least I heard people say that that's what it was. I'm not sure if that's actually true. But it's really good. It's about like this girl who lives and is a part of the circus and wants to run away and join real life. And she makes a lot of sketches that she keeps putting up and building this whole world out of her sketches on her walls in the various hotels she ends up staying in. And one day she just gets sucked into that world and has a bunch of adventures. It's really neat.
It's also weird as fuck.
Yeah, that's part of why I like it.
Yeah.
Unsurprising.
If you guys haven't picked it up yet, Space Baroness Ari der Schnitzelgeist von Uten is all about the weird. Like, it's my fucking life.
Weird.
I think we just got our episode title, All About the Weird.
Okay.
Also, I'm a huge Jim Henson fan. It's another inspiration for me being in New York. Jim Henson, actually.
Yet another reason for Keem and I to get along.
Very true.
I told you guys. You will totally get along. You just have to stop being awkward enough to text each other.
Okay, yeah, background for our readers. Keem and I have known each other for a little bit, and for the longest time, we just didn't really speak to each other.
Neither one of you thought the other liked you, but it turns out it's just because you're both awkward weirdos who are bad at communicating when you think somebody is cool.
Yeah, that's the deal.
I know that's the deal. That's why I made you both text each other.
We both really had positive opinions of. We each really had positive opinions of the other, and it just took forever for us to actually do anything.
Because you're both awkward weirdos.
Not only was it a while, we have known each other for nearly a year.
Yeah, and only just like a couple weeks ago did we actually start texting each other.
Because we're awkward.
Yes, awkward as fuck. Another possible title, though we haven't really been that awkward this episode.
True. I'm a lot less awkward on this podcast than in real life.
That's true.
Oh yeah, it's fun talking to an imaginary audience.
Exactly.
It's like one of my compulsions. I'm a very auditory person, so I'm frequently talking to myself, and sometimes I like pretending I'm talking to an audience. It's just a thing.
If our views are any indication, most of our audience is imaginary.
Probably.
Little self-deprecating humor there. Is there anything else we'd like to say before we move into the sex segment?
I don't think so.
I mean, it all depends on if there are any burning questions for anybody.
I don't. I think I'm good.
All right. I think we covered a lot of ground. So, like, anybody who heard all of this and thinks, hey, I might be really into this. I might be grokking what this dude's putting down and wanting to jive on his funky rhythms. Or whatever the fuck. You can Google Discordianism, Google Discordian literature. We'll provide you a link to the Principia Discordia, subtitle, How I Found the Goddess and What I Did When I Found Her. And, yeah, just, like, go on a journey.
Yeah. Dig it.
All right. Well, with that, we will be going to be ending this topic segment and moving into our sex segment for the week. After another musical interlude from Midtown Queer.
You haven't known somebody, you haven't known them bad, you haven't known them so much, you end up being sad. You're the broken angel, a girl with tattered wings. I got something special you can only find in dreams. But daddy was a mean one, he was a cruel and evil man. He did things to his daughter I will never understand. Tommy took her on, he put it in her body, broke it with a hammer and told her not to drop. Never lost you end up being sad. You ever lost somebody, oh, you ever lost somebody, ever lost someone, you end up being sad.
And welcome back to our sex segment. Now, normally Esme introduces this segment, but this this topic came from me because I had questions. So the latest societal fad, at least in circles that I'm around, is eating ass.
Y'all should see Ari's face. It's amazing.
I have plenty to talk about with analingus.
I knew that you would.
This will be fun.
So, or as the young people call it, eating groceries. There are terms, new terms for
No,
it.
eating ass like groceries.
No,
Get caught up,
shortened,
Keem.
they've shortened it to just groceries.
Okay, then get caught up, Ari. Damn.
Yeah.
I still just call it analingus.
I mean,
But-
yeah, that's like the fucking official term or whatever.
I'm all about using the right words for things. Also, I'm not here.
So I had quite a few questions. I have never partaken in the devouring of the brownie, but
Stop! That's gross.
Yeah, it's not typically brown. It's more of a pink or
Yeah.
purplish.
I mean, it
color,
depends on
thank you.
it depends on what your skin tone is.
Yeah, it depends on
really.
the skin tone of the person surrounding the anus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't stare
There is
directly into
also the
anus.
common practice of bleaching assholes now.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that
that's
common,
also
though?
true.
And not that common, no.
I was gonna say, like, that doesn't seem
It's
like
just
that
a thing
common.
that people like to joke about, and allegedly a bunch of porn stars have done it.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen a lot of porn with bleached assholes.
I mean, I see a lot of porn, not so much with bleached assholes. I guess it really hasn't gotten around to the man-on-man business.
See, no, that's definitely like a femme thing, right? Because femme
Yeah.
people are supposed to be clean, and
I mean,
it's a whole thing.
There's
It's
a whole
thing.
big deal around...
Every single thing about femme bodies is policed so heavily, including there's like a whole stigma about
That's some fucking true.
It's a whole thing.
I mean, it does actually overlap a little bit with us gays and
Yeah.
topping and bottoming and all that.
I believe
like a lot of us are essentially expected to undergo enemas before we are quote unquote prepared for anal sex.
Which
I
is
of
some
course
bullshit.
don't actually. I typically feel good to go as long as like I've done some cleaning. But
Yeah.
you know.
So,
And actually, that brings me to my quandaries about the act of analingus, and which was how to. And I've had this conversation with other people, with a coworker specifically, because she just happened to keep like this one guy that was talking to her just kept asking to eat her ass and such.
I like
and-
how you have a job, or you had a job. Right? This is just a thing that you can talk about with your
Yeah,
coworkers.
the job's
Like,
pretty
hey.
laid back.
Whatever.
Look, we clean toilets together. At that once you got your hands knee deep, arm deep in shit, you just don't care anymore. But we were
I
discussing.
think you meant elbow
and
deep, by the way. You said arms and then knee deep, so like.
I said knee and then arm.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay, something like that.
Because I fucked up the knee and then went arm.
Anyway,
But how? Like we were discussing, like how does one like do you prepare for this? Like this, do you, like what do you do to prepare? Do you like? Is there like what's the protocol for analingus? And this is where my quandaries came in. Like I know nothing because up until recently in personal history, I've never like done it, performed that act, and until recently, well, kind of recently,
Pretty
I
recently.
generally pretty recently, kinda. Actually, very kinda, because it
Some
comes in two parts.
degree of recently, guys.
Exactly. Do I even have I even like mess with anything surrounding the butt region?
Dude, butts are great. Why did you take so long?
Because he's a straight man, and there's
because
a stigma.
that's where
Stigma.
poop
Fuck that
lives.
shit.
Stigma.
It's where poop
Fuck that
lives.
shit like an ass.
It's what?
That's where poop lives. That was my
Stigma.
that was my reasoning. Before
Because
It comes from
because
there.
poop is gross and gay is gross, and so only gays do that.
it was less with gay, because like when my first thoughts with my only thoughts with anal sex is with women, because I'm not gay.
Wow.
It just
Okay. Okay.
saying, like, because I was
Well-
gonna say my original
well,
thoughts were
he
with
is not
women, and
a
I had to clarify.
homosexual.
I need to clarify before when I was like, I didn't. Yeah, but
But also
don't.
with women and with me.
Yeah,
Who's like kind of a woman. Whatever.
I mean,
Let's quibble
it's
about
just like how
terminology.
Ari is kind of a man.
Whatever.
like female bodied. Would that work?
Perceived as female.
Probably the most effective.
Yeah. Anyway, before all that, like my excuse was just I was grossed out by poo. So yeah, but anyway, preparation. It's like Esme, inform, like teach me.
I mean, okay, so Ari's might be
teach
more qualified to talk about this than I am, because
as far
I
as
have been on
analingus
both ends.
preparation.
I have been on both ends of analingus,
I
but
also
I've
have.
decided that it's not a thing that I really typically enjoy doing.
I've
so
been
I have
on
not
both
done it in
ends
a very long
and
time.
decided that at least one end is pretty good for me. I actually quite enjoy eating that ass like groceries, as the kids may say. Okay, I'm not going to go too into detail with what I like to do yet. That might be
you
for another
totally
time.
could, no, you totally could though if you wanted to, because
Yeah.
this is the show for that.
But the deal is, ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, I'll eat your ass as long as I can't, like, see shit. Like, if you don't poop in my face, I'm gonna be okay. It's not like that one African, like, hardline Christian priest said, I do not eat the poo-poo, but I do eat the ass. It's pretty fun. Basically, just make sure there's a nice thorough wipe back there, maybe shower, or maybe take like a baby wipe to it if you're willing to do that and have it sit in your garbage, because you can't flush those things. Yeah, I don't require an enema. Some people do.
Because some people can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, and that's another thing that
Although at the
actually
same time,
is something
everybody-
people are doing.
Although at the same time, everybody's entitled to their own boundaries, and
So,
if
yeah,
if
if
their
that's your
boundaries are
cleanliness
objectionable,
boundary-
then I don't know, don't have sex with them.
Yeah.
And well, also maybe they have some, like, what they feel are like sanitation issues.
I mean, if they're really that afraid of poop,
I
then
mean, but
sure.
a baby wipe will take care of that.
On the one hand, everybody poops, but on the other hand, Hitler pooped, so you might be evil for having done so.
Hey, we've discussed this earlier. No one's all evil. No one's all good.
Even Hitler, though?
Hitler probably did some good stuff.
Hitler
Please,
was the first
just
person
cut that
to
out.
introduce fluoride to Germany's water supply.
Okay, so there's that. So either you believe he's extra evil because he's poisoning the Germans' water supply, or you believe that he's helping their teeth.
All right.
I mean, I believe the latter, but why not let the science deniers have some kind of a voice for the sake of poking fun at them?
You can't be the perfect race without perfect teeth.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Wow. Okay. Back to analingus because this took a weird turn.
Because it started out not weird at all.
And I would consider to criticize this idea of white people as the perfect race, because number one, white's not actually a race, and number two, like, we fucking need genocide in order to survive, apparently, according to the people who believe white is the best race. So, how the fuck are we perfect?
We went from analingus into Hitler, and now let's go back to analingus.
Let's circle back around to
let's get back to eating ass.
Right.
A nice big plate of it.
We need to stop focusing on that. We need to stop focusing on that asshole and focus on the asshole.
I just pictured a butt on a plate, and that was great.
It's beautiful imagery.
It was amazing.
I'm actually uniquely talented in that I can craft many mental images without myself seeing them.
Ari, did you ever watch Cow and Chicken growing up?
Yes.
Cow and Chicken used to eat ass. They used to eat pork butts and taters.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ass on the plate.
They even had that bit, possibly insensitive bit, where there were those like biker chicks who munched on carpet.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was horribly insensitive, horribly inappropriate for a show. But it was hilarious.
No!
I mean, looking back, it is pretty funny, but also very like shitty toward lesbians. Like, come on, you guys. Lesbians, they're great. Quit making fun of this. Fun of them.
The main antagonist of the show was a gay devil with his ass exposed.
Certainly effeminate. And his butt was hanging out all the time.
Yeah, he had a large red ass.
It was beautiful. I was very tempted by it. Certainly. It's why, in addition to Eris, I also have deep respect for the devil. Clearly, that's the reason.
Obviously.
Jeez. Anyway.
But I did also want to include in this conversation, since we're talking about eating ass. So
it's
like
okay
I said,
everyone, if you want to eat ass, you like eating ass and getting your ass eaten, it's fine.
I feel like that one was obvious in like the tone of the discussion.
Yes. In any case, so like I said, I have been on both ends of it and have decided that it's not really for me. Partly because, okay, so I am kind of still hung up about the like this is the butt. Thank you, Keem. Like it's a completely irrational thing, and I'm just kind of like meh. Like I don't actually enjoy really like being on the receiving end of that, but being on the giving end of it is partly a mental thing, and I'm just like. It's weird. But here's where, circling back around to a previous discussion, here's where dental dams come in handy. Right?
Yeah.
Like if even like going and showering with your partner beforehand and making sure everything is nice and clean is not enough for you to get over the mental aspect of that, put a barrier there. Yeah. Jesus Christ, guys.
A barrier keeps you from getting any shit in
there
your
is
mouth.
No possibility. There is no possibility. Just put a barrier there. That's what barriers are fucking for.
And yeah, see, I think a lot of people.
They don't know that there's a barrier for that.
I mean, it's the same barrier as for eating out a woman,
but they don't know that it exists.
Yeah, so many people don't know.
We've had guests on. Shout out to Rico, who was so fucking confused when I brought up dental dams. He was like, wait, what the fuck is a dental dam? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? This is a thing that every person needs to know exists.
Yeah, man. There are ways to protect your mouth if you are afraid of your mouth getting dirty things in it.
Yeah.
And I think the booty eating crowd, especially, should know about dental dams since it's so popular nowadays.
Dental dams.
Mm-hmm. Though at the same time, I'm perfectly fine eating booty without a dental dam as long as I like trust the person enough to like be clean and
And
all
that's the
that.
thing. Everybody has their own boundaries, and it's okay. Like, you can respect people's boundaries. You can negotiate about, like, is this okay with a barrier? Is this okay without a barrier? Like, let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, man.
Yes!
Have those conversations.
Have some conversations.
If you want to get your ass eat, tell them how you want your ass eat, and ask them what they need to eat your ass.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
And also, don't be married to them doing it, because if they still are like, that I can't, then that's okay. Like, don't force
That's fine.
anybody into... Don't coerce anybody into sexual acts that they're not okay
It's
with.
also okay if you decide not to have sex with them because they won't eat your ass.
That's true.
Like, if
You're
you
not-
need to have your ass eat to have
Yeah.
sex, then go ahead.
Yes.
Like, just don't be coercive, as she said.
Exactly.
As they said.
Although, thank you.
I will tell you. I will say something interesting. And as I am not an eater of the ass myself, I am not a assetarian.
But how do you know if you haven't tried?
I mean, we could have a whole long rant about that phrase.
That's true.
Here's the thing, and how do you know if you haven't tried? A lot of people,
Looks like we're having the rant.
Yay!
a lot of people who I say I've never done that have accidentally done it already. There's been at least one time, and this is probably going to come back to haunt me. So fuck it. There's been at least one
yeah,
time.
that's one of the things you do with the ass.
God damn it.
That's true.
God does damn it, actually, according to some people.
I mean, like,
Yeah, we saw one of those people today.
but you guys already covered this. God is a woman, and their name is Eris. Like, it's all good. She don't care.
And that golden apple we talked about earlier was actually a butthole. It was
I mean,
not
If that's the way you want to look at it.
Yeah, see, we're tying it all back together. But anyway, so during a moment of, as the kids say, 69ing, you in certain positions during that, you don't really have a lot of control over your area, especially when you're
When
licking
you're
from front to back.
in pleasure.
Exactly.
I rarely spasm in pleasure when I'm 69. It's way too much fucking work.
It is a lot of work. I will attest to that.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. It's a lot. I'm not gonna turn it down, and I do enjoy it. It's not my favorite thing. Usually because I get a stiff neck.
For me, my jaw tends to lock up after a while.
I don't have that problem.
Anyway.
But so, like I said, it's kind of sometimes hard to control the area in which, and I know at least once I went a little, I guess, at this point too high. I was like, oh well, that's a different hole. My tongue just circled around. Let me go back.
But
So,
was it a
I mean,
transcendent experience?
No. I mean, I did go.
But sex
It
doesn't have
was-
to be transcendent to be good.
No, that's true. I was just like, I was being ass advocate or something.
But like, it was like for the people who are like, oh, I'm not gonna eat ass. Sometimes you may have already done it. Like, you may have slipped in there already and slipped out and not realized it, or just kind of let it go.
And is it really so bad?
No, I did go get some mouthwash after it.
I mean,
But
and there we go with more of the cleanliness boundaries.
Right. Also, I felt kind of weird kissing the person, like not because of what happened, mostly because I was just like, yeah, I should I tell them that I accidentally did that?
I mean,
I mean-
maybe. If you think that their cleanliness boundaries would not allow for that.
So it was weird. It was a strange situation for me afterward. Anyway, enough for me. I'm done.
Okay, I mean, we talked a lot about eating ass so far. This almost looks like it might be a shorter podcast than most.
What?
How did that happen?
Yep.
Is there
By the way, you
anything
guys, I am a long-time listener of this podcast. That's why I know so much about it.
Yay!
It's
Well,
good.
long time as in, like, the past month, I caught up on all of them.
Including the pre-reboot episodes.
Yeah.
Whoa! How
Yeah,
much
man,
talk about?
I listen to everything.
Ari's a committed fan.
Oh God, the pre-reboot episodes are something.
Yeah, they're a little not amazing, but like it was fun. I don't know. I was kind of definitely talking back to that conspiracy episode quite a bit. But then
Right.
at the same time, like my whole deal as regards conspiracies is that like the world's kind of shit enough. We don't actually have to make up more ways for it to be shit.
But it's so much fun. Nah,
I mean, sure, if that's how you pass your time, like whatever. But it's not for me.
We got some hate on that episode. We got some real hate on that episode.
Okay,
Like,
that's weird. Like,
Yeah.
you people who hate on bullshit, like, quit hating on bullshit. Just stop, as Eris would say. Unless that's what humanity wants, in which case, like,
Go
let the
on.
hate flow.
let the hate flow through you, Anakin.
Yeah, that shit.
That was weird.
Wait,
Good shit.
Yeah.
That good Sith shit.
that's good shit. which you might take a good shit after analingulis. Lingulis.
I mean, honestly, I have found that anal sex tends to be at least a somewhat decent diuretic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it relaxes muscles, so I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, yeah. Like it's
It's all right. So, anything else anybody like to add?
Nah, I'm good.
Baba Booey, Baba Booey.
How about booty? Boom, back to ass.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with that, we are going to be ending the show. Special thanks once again to Ari for coming on and talking to us today. It was fucking fun. Like Jesus.
Right?
Not Jesus, Eris. Though Jesus, if you really want to color that, I don't really see her having any problems.
True.
But yeah, absolutely, you're welcome, and I'm willing to come back to future episodes and whatnot to give my maybe a little unique, but also maybe not inputs on things if necessary. Who knows? I might even become a third co-host. Pay attention, listeners. You might see me again.
Someone's lobbying for a position. It can be a third.
Yes.
Maybe I could be. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, Ari's been pushing for this today. You don't
Yeah,
understand.
you
We've been
can
hanging
send-
out all afternoon.
You can send in your application. And we'll.
We'll get back to you within the month.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Where's the form I fill out then?
Ask me. You handle that.
Oh, excellent. The form's in my imagination, everyone. That
Right.
means it's exactly what it exactly is asking the questions that I am greatest at. So
Yes.
clearly I'm going to be a co-host. This has happened now.
We shall see. We got a few more applicants in mind. Got to do a few more interviews. You may be a little overqualified, actually. You're not
Yeah.
black, are you?
Not last time I checked, but in Space Germany we do change color. So
All right.
Maybe.
All right. Anyways, Thanks for coming on the show, and we're going to be looking forward to seeing more, hearing more. Nobody sees this damn show. Hearing more from Ari in the future, hopefully near future.
Yes.
Actually, honestly, with Esme having some out of town stuff going on, a third host might be
Yeah, there's a couple of weeks in the next few months that we're gonna need somebody.
Oh, well, damn. I might volunteer. It depends on how shit goes. There will be the occasional week when I won't be terribly available. I occasionally visit, like, family out of town, and they don't have good internet, so...
Anyway. But yeah.
So, thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks to Midtown Queer for providing us with our music for this week.
Yay!
As a Midtown Queer myself, I heartily approve.
Yes.
There's...
Oh.
Go for it.
I was going to say thanks, as always, to the Living Room Leftists for providing us with our theme music, because you guys are amazing. You're fantastic.
As a Living Room Leftist myself, I heartily approve.
And as always, anyone who would like to share their music on the show, please get in contact with me or with us, and we'll be happy to share your music. Anyone who would love to come on our show to be a guest, we would love to have you on to talk about people, because this is a lot of fun. Not talk about people, but talk about things, because it's a lot of fun.
Sometimes people.
Mostly
sometimes.
ideas.
You know what? And fuck Trump, by the way. That's the person we do talk about. So fuck him. Don't fuck him, actually.
No, don't.
Kick him off a short
Not in the
clip.
fun ways, at least.
Right. So if you would like to come on a show, please get in contact with us. Also, I am working on a poetry-centered episode. I am looking for people who have some spoken word poetry that they would like to record and share, that I will combine, or we will combine into a episode to, give a showcase to poets, because poetry is amazing and more people should appreciate it, because poetry is awesome. It's one of the hearts and souls of literature and social movements. So I want to feature poetry on the show. So anybody who has some poetry they'd like to share, get in contact with me, and we can talk about you recording your voice, because I prefer your voice, because people have emotions they want to evoke with their poetry, and they can do it better with their own voices.
This is a long ramble.
Sorry. I'm passionate about poetry.
I hear that.
So please, if you're hearing this, if you have some poetry, get back to us. Links will be in the description, as always.
Good night, Outer Voices. Good night.
You will not get the job if you steal my outro. As always, this has been Keem and Esme and Ari, and we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.